Welcome to today's live session at Digital Earth Africa. Today we'll present on the Digital Earth Africa Coastline service and how it can be used to assess the impact of coastal change. Welcome. Digital Earth Africa was set up a few years ago, and it's powered by partnerships, and the program is working with different implementing partners across the continent to unlock the value of Earth observations. Digital Africa is ultimately empowering the countries how to use analysis-ready data to address the greater natural resource management of the different countries. Digital Africa is powered by Amazon Web Services and uses Open Data Cube technology. And the program is helping provide the data that is helping to inform different insights and looking at the various national development agendas of the different countries in Africa, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the African Union Agenda 2063. Powered by Open Data Cube technology, the program provides a host of various algorithms and notebooks to address the various thematic areas. Our implemented partners across the continent, we have the AFREGIS in Nigeria, Agreement in Niger, Centre de Suivi Ecologie in Senegal, RCMRD in Nairobi, Kenya, serving East and Southern Africa, and Observation du Sahel and Sahara OSS in Tunisia, and also being part of the group of Earth observation, working closely with the AfriGeo community in Africa. And Digital Africa has been able to develop continental services from the water observation from space, the cloud-free mosaics, fractional cover, water bodies service, cropland extent, and the coastline monitoring service. All these services are developed and co-validated with our partners across the continent, and they are very useful in providing insights into the greater natural resource management of the various countries. For today's topic, Digital Africa Coastline Monitoring Service is very useful as it helps unlock the coastal zone management of the different countries in Africa. Looking at the countries covered, 38 countries, they're able to use this service to map the various changes of the coastlines from the year 2000 to 2024, and this service continues to be updated. Countries are now able to see the effects of extreme events on their coastline, and also it's a great service to help countries in terms of developing their own coastal management plans, as well as working closely with the communities, especially those ones who are vulnerable, and informing them of how they can be part of the greater management of the coastlines service. Coast service major socioeconomic hub for the 38 countries that are covered by the coastline. And looking at these countries, some of them have their hubs developed into mega cities, and also the population has been growing, and also countries are working closely to address the blue economy and empower their citizens. However, some of the issues we've seen over time through those ones of rising sea levels, coastal erosion, and also countries at a point where they need to develop their coastal zone management plans. The service, Coastline Service, provides an opportunity which is interactive for countries to see areas of hotspot rates of change of the coastline, as even at the average yearly shorelines from the year 2000 to 2024, and also enable the greater development of the coastal zone management plans, as well as address the impacts of the different weather events on the infrastructure and the community. The Coastline Monitoring Service has been developed and validated with our partners in the continent. We have the Centre Suivi Ecologie in Senegal, who are greater part of the West African coastal areas project, looking at 12 countries, and also the Regional Center for Mapping for Resources for Development in Nairobi, providing validation in some of the countries, member states from East Africa to Southern Africa. What you're able to see here is just an example of one of the validation points in Sali, Portugal, in Senegal, where the partners were able to cross-reference the South Africa coastline from the Landsat imageries. As well, they went further recently using Sentinel-2 imageries, and also greater part of working closely with their partners. It's greater part of the West African coastline areas project. In terms of RCMRD, they have been able to do validation in Djibouti and Comoros, and we'll be able to show you some of the work that they have developed. Access to the Digital Africa Coastline Service is possible through the Digital Africa Map, the Sandbox, as well as the Africa Geoportal. I wish to present the Digital Africa Map, where you can be able to access the service, and here you're able to identify hotspots and rates of change. Looking, for example, we have the case in point of dynamics of the coastline of Mozambique, and the other one, Madagascar. There's quite a lot of insights that this service is helping, and also our audience and stakeholders are also invited to be able to be using this service, as well as guiding you on our website how to access the service on the platforms, the services, and the analysis of the data. You're able to go to the service dashboard and see the various interaction from different countries and how you can interact with this particular dashboard. Nevertheless, also on the Digital Africa map, we're able to guide you on how to access the coastline service. Just this part of the dashboard also to capture that we can get summaries of each country. And this is very good to show some insights on areas which have experienced a lot of change in their coastline. Looking at some of the examples of the countries, example Ghana, we could look at Namibia, etc., etc. Also, all the countries are positioned differently, and the rate of coastline erosion has been different. And some of the coast has gained, and some of it have retreated to the shoreline. So these dynamics are very key, because then working closely with the in-country partners, it's possible to look at the areas where people are vulnerable and the particular population that is vulnerable. Going to the Digital Africa map, giving you insights on how to access it as part of our continental services. It's a free service covering over of 24 years of data from Landsat data. And from this, you can be able to see the link also how to add, as well as to access the web map services of this coastline service. It's a great service for us to see how to empower different countries. Looking at a snapshot, we can change the background, the imagery, based on your connection, or also how visible you're able to navigate from different countries, showing the different coastline. The colors in red will indicate areas which have experienced more than 5 meters of retreat, or the other way around. When it's blue, they could have been again on the coastline. So looking at the dynamic of the coast, especially around Mozambique, Beira, areas where I've had a lot of story, information about the coastal erosion, looking at Namibia, and looking at the different coastal areas. And also we could change also the imagery, the backgrounds. So this could also be impacted by your connectivity, internet connectivity, but also gives you an idea of some hotspot areas. Looking at Libya, going to the north coast, Morocco, Algiers, and also navigating to see some hotspot areas as well. Mauritania, Senegal, Guinea, West Africa, like Nigeria. Also, we can change the background as well, to get a good visibility of the different countries, the boundaries, looking also high spot areas from above. Looking at the coast of Mozambique as an example, and looking at Beira. Beira is where we've had a lot of information about the cyclones, which come twice a year or so. And looking at this example, we could look at the measurement change in coastline from 2000 to 2024, it's over 300 meters. So this gives you the dynamics of the coastal areas based on the strong waves that they receive, and also where they're positioned, and also the various programs the governments are embarking on. Looking at Namibia around Walvis Bay and also above Swakopmund, we can be able to see the dynamics, the coastline, the changes over time based on the strong waves they receive, and also the dynamics, as well as having visited the area, you could see how area is impacted, especially around Swakopmund and Namibia. So some of these areas over 100 meters of change, and also looking at the skeleton desert, quite strong waves being received, and sandstorms as well. Also navigating South Africa, as well as around Durban, where we had a reporting the different livelihoods were lost due to coastal erosion, as well as the floods as well. The dynamics of extreme weather events, the change of the coastline, as well as the policies the governments are putting in place to provide areas where the communities have to live, especially far from the coast area, based on the different times of the year as well, especially around April when we've experienced a lot of floods in Durban. Also, just looking at the dynamics of the coast, also in the Madagascar, as well as different islands around Mozambique Channel in the north west, we could see quite some dynamics, the coastal area, and the coastal service is really informing us a lot what is happening. So at the initial set of providing insights, Digital Earth Africa is currently working with the partners, different countries, as well as the youth mappers, and other stakeholders, OpenStreetMappers, to see how to work together as an ecosystem, use this data, and also you could share maps, the link, you can share the map URL, or even create a story map that you might use to share, collaborate with other partners. So this is a very good platform also in the sandbox. You can see where to access the different tools to address coastal erosion, and looking at different thematic areas in the coast to have coastal erosion, coastal service, as well as other services on the same. We'll be able to see just as an example of some of the areas, and also a look at the dashboard. Co-development is key, as mentioned in the sandbox. We have some tools to look at the coastal erosion and the evolution of the coastline. And this is just an example of how to access the same in the sandbox. Looking at coastal erosion, we could look at an example of Mombasa in Kenya. And here we are using different data sets, a Landsat, Sentinel-1 and 2, to create quite a decision tree that will help us to see the evolution of the coastline, especially where we are able to go and see, yes, certain images. We could also complement this with Sentinel-1 or 2. And looking at the coast of Mombasa has changed over time. We've had areas where there have been erosion, and also areas where the government might have done some restoration of the coasts as well. So this is very key, looking at the different sectors who are relying on information. Also, we have non-government organizations like Farm Conservation Biodiversity, NGOs working with communities to replant mangroves in some certain areas, working closely with the communities, empowering the communities. So looking at this example, we are looking at big data over 100 GB, looking at the change coastline, and creating some indices on the water index. We can see the evolution of the Mombasa Island over time, and also we're able to unlock some insights where we're able to extract the coastline, and ultimately we're able to see the evolution over time. We're able to zoom in also certain areas, especially around the mainland, the island itself. We could see the change of the coastline over time. Look at some areas where there's been a lot of erosion, and also the evolution of the coast based on the different waves and the extreme weather events that have been observed. This is very key. As you can see, the coastline itself helping the informing the coastal management plans, as well as involving the different sectors and actors to see how to work closely with different stakeholders and looking at the rate of change of the coastline. Very good information there. And also guiding the communities also to be very careful as they build towards the coastline and where it has been over time. And this could be an issue where it could recur when we have especially extreme events like the El Nino. Also, we can be able to export an animation that we could be able to present to key decision makers to show them the evolution of the same. So also, these are very good information for us looking at the coastline, coastal erosion, the evolution over time, and also working with different partners in terms of validation and the evolution of the coast. Also looking at the coastal erosion, we could look at an example of from born in Comoros. So it's just an example. You can see the evolution over time. Then also is example of Dakar. You can see over time. Then also looking at the Digital Earth Africa coastline dashboard, we could now look at different countries and where they are. So this is a very good example in terms of this demo, and also showing you how to access this particular dashboard to get more insights at the country level. And also we have extra notebook to look at the country level exposure, which would give you the link to a previous live session. So we could look at the different countries, the highest level, look at one example, case of Congo, Republic of Congo. We could also look at different countries like Benin, looking at the evolution of the coast around Cotonou, looking at those quite insights areas of the retracted coastline. So this is just more of an example per example as we try to cover all these 38 countries, but also just to give some insights on some countries that you would like to look at, or also you could go at your own time. So going to the coast of East Africa, Southern Africa, Mozambique, we could look around the Ira, some of the hotspot areas that we mentioned earlier on. We could look at them on the dashboard to see the areas which have increased and the areas which have retreated on the coast. And it's quite dynamic based on how it is located as well in the hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, and the waves in the Indian Ocean, where we have the Western Indian Ocean Commission, who are able to provide insights on the extreme events around this area, and also work closely with the Ministry of Environment and the National Disaster Management Authorities to inform them, especially when we have these extreme weather events and how it affects the communities in the coast. We could also now go to just another example, looking at the coast around Durban and also around Richards Bay. See quite some insights, areas of increase, and also going to the north around KZN, Richards Bay. You could see some areas quite insights, especially in color red, have been vulnerable also to extreme coastline change. Coastal Namibia around Walvis Bay, you could see the same scenario as well. And there, as we click on the same, is just going by country so that the data can show for the particular country that you're clicking. Looking at the coast of DRC and around, you could see quite some hotspot areas. So looking at Gabon as well, you can see quite the information there. So each country is there quite unique, and also comparing to the global data sets on impacted population. So this is quite an informative resource for us. And also working closely with our partner Esri, we have this tutorial also on the Africa Geoportal, where they have also showcased the data from Digital Africa. And this is just to give you an opportunity to be inspired by the portal and also accessing the data sets from Digital Africa. On the platform, we have access to the Africa Geoportal, and there now you can be able to access the portal. And also now you're able to explore one of the examples. And this is looking at the coastline hotspots areas as was presented. And here the beauty in the Africa Geoportal, you can change some layers and you can be able to add also some base maps from the Africa Geoportal. So the Digital Africa working closely with the partners to empower. Look at the previous example, Mozambique Channel in Madagascar. We could see the areas, also the islands around. You could also look at some layers and you could add some layers, or also you could enable or disable some of the layers, like in the background imagery. You could use the world cover map, or you could even add a different URL from a different area, different data source. So these are very key resource, key areas to look at, making sure that we are all empowered. So looking also at the rate of the change in the coastline, we'd also look at the coastal hotspots. You can enable and disable. You can look at the world cover map. You could also look at the insights of some of the areas which have been affected, especially Somalia with the longest coastline as well, in terms of inland. And the second one will be Madagascar. You can see, and also looking at Mozambique. So it's a very good opportunity to see at country level, or even at the economic region hub, how we are affected, change of the coastline, and also how the governments will work closely with the partners to develop the coastal management plans or update them, or even create a vulnerability atlas that guides investments in different areas so that the communities are more resilient. So also looking at the annual change, we could do the comparison. Also looking at the small islands like Zanzibar, we can look at the whole continent, looking at the areas that really have been impacted. So Africa Portal is very key, and also we've had the same session in French in the week previously, and we'll continue providing more insights as we write for them. I'm also planning for the year 2026 to provide you with more insights on the coastline service, and also to have some of you also present some of your work on the same, including the findings and also the comparison with the different data sources. Looking at Egypt and looking at Libya, we could look at quite amazing insights as we continue. So all this work has been powered by partners, and also looking at some of the examples being shared, especially mapping the coastal erosion in the coast of Kenya, Tanzania, as well as Senegal, working with our partners, and also in Comoros, working closely with the Regional Center for Mapping, where they're showcasing some of the work we're able to show you. In the case of Ghana, working with one of the stakeholders from the Ghana Space Institute, was sharing some of their work, especially around Keita Lagoon. Looking also in Kenya, working with the farm conservation biodiversity, who have been monitoring the mangroves, replanting them in certain areas where they've been affected. And the case in point in Senegal, also mapping the seagrass and seeing how the coastline service is informing some of the activities. The case of Djibouti, working closely with the regional center, they're able to show some trends in the coastal erosion in Djibouti as a country, as well as the city. Also, case in point in Comoros, tracking coastal erosion in some of the islands, and also around also the airport. There's another, the Prince Said Ibrahim International Airport also, where there was an app which was developed to look at the various change comparing with the Digital Earth Africa Coastline Service. Also looking at the coastal erosion around Fomboli in Comoros, and also comparing with some work shared by our partners, including in South Africa, where they were able to use Digital Africa data sets to inform their coastal risk and vulnerability atlas. And this was this case in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, around Tugela River in Durban. And the insights were quite useful as well. So this service is ultimately to empower the coastal management, and also looking at some of the examples of the coastline of Angola, Benin, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, Guinea, Kenya, Madagascar, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Africa, Tanzania, Togo. So those was just to show you some insights of the coastline, the service among the different countries as an example. And also, if I didn't mention your country, and including the next presentation. Please stay connected with us in our live sessions. Next, we'll have a session on the ESA World Serial, French, and thereafter in English. And then the end of the month, we'll have a session on how we could access the Sentinel-3 data in Digital Africa. And Digital Africa acknowledges the partners, especially the Helmsley Trust and the Australian government and the partners who've made Digital Africa this far. The support is well appreciated. Thank you so much, our viewers, stakeholders, and partners. And please keep in touch with us so that we can unlock the promise of tomorrow together with you as we look at a prosperous Africa together for the Africa we want. Thank you so much, and thank you.